Priscilla Regina Naruoga, Madam Moderator, taking you through our Kickstarter, which looks to nothing else but the state of the nation as we wait for the Presidential Address 2026. Numbers versus the realities in the last 365 days. And of course, the big question of whether the economy has grown leaps and bounds. And so that is where we're putting our focus on. You can turn to our social media platforms and you can be part of the discussions that are ongoing right now. I think one of the big questions that we have over there is, has anything of the government's decisions, priorities actually trickled down to a reality for you? You can let us know with the hashtag Morning at NTV and the hashtag Sona. And so those are some of the things that we are looking at. Has the economic growth improved the life of you, the life of your family, the life of your grandmother, and the life of the ordinary Ugandan by and large? So 1 year ago, President Museveni, having stood before the country and the parliament and painted a picture of a country that was on the rise, the economy having been projected to grow by more than 6% and inflation having fallen to about 3.5%, among the lowest in the East African community. Export earnings having reached record levels driven by coffee, gold, dairy and manufactured goods, and government arguing that its investments in infrastructure, investments in industrialization, investments in parish development model, among other investments, we're actually now beginning to transform our lives. Fast forward to today, coffee export earnings have climbed from $1.7 billion in 2025 to over $2.2 billion in 2026. As of the last report, gold exports also having surged from $3.8 billion up to $5.8 billion. And then you also get to have inflation remaining relatively low, the economy continuing to grow, and yet many Ugandans are still complaining about unemployment. They are still stagnant in terms of incomes and sources, expensive healthcare, expensive education, corruption, and the continued rise of the cost of living. So this morning, we ask ourselves, are the statistics telling the full story, and are they giving us the actual picture? Is Uganda's economic growth actually reaching the ordinary citizen, or the person that benefits from it is concretely elsewhere? And as the country heads towards yet another State of the Nation address, those are some things that we want to make analysis of. Joining me for this analysis is Dr. Eli Twineo Kamjisha, who is an economist and author, as well as a development strategy with more than 2 decades of experience. This is working with government, working with private sector, and working with international agencies. Dr. Eli, good morning to you.
Morning, Priscilla, and morning to the viewers. I'm glad to be here on this powerful day.
As we are also having him sit on this table, we also do having Alan Muhereza. He's a Pan-African lawyer, a policy advocate, who's also a team lead with a very interesting group, the Youth for Tax Justice Network. Youth and taxes being put in the same bracket. It's a very interesting dynamic to which he'll help us understand the focuses on taxation, public finance accountability, financial flows, youth economic inclusion, all of that he brings to the table this morning. Good morning to you, Alan.
Good morning to you, Priscilla, and good morning to our viewers. And yeah, I'm also glad to be here and to make the connections in our discussion.
Speaking of connections, Dr. Eli,
Yes.
just briefly give us an oversight where you are seated. What's the state of Uganda right now?
And today being really the state of the nation, we need to look at the state of the economy, kind of a country report. And so when we are looking at the state of Uganda, we are looking at both the macros, the big pictures, Priscilla, and then what concerns the common man, the Muntu wa wansi, are the other issues, and I'm going to divide them in this way. Regarding the state of the growth of the economy, I was looking at it, and Uganda has been growing roughly between 4 to 5 billion US dollars per year, which translates into the fact that 5 years ago, Uganda was around 43 or 40s billion US dollars economy, but now we are by June, we were at around 66. By now, actually, we are around 70 billion US dollars. As you say, inflation has stabilized. Inflation is so important because it determines the cost of all goods and services, the cost of rent, the cost of loans. Sometimes banks misbehave, don't mind about inflation, they just fix their interest rates differently, but it is wrong. It also, inflation affects what we call groceries, it affects utilities, it affects transport. It has recently been worsened, of course, and we cannot blame it on anybody. We cannot also not blame it on government. The issue of these wars in Ukraine, the wars in Iran, the war between America and Iran, between the US and Iran, the war between Israel and Iran, which are happening at the same time, have had such a big effect on our price of goods and how we live. Now, the other aspect that you look at when you are looking at the wider economy, you are looking at is it getting a lot of foreign exchange? Are the reserves, the national reserves, okay? I am told the reserves are around 6 billion. Normally, you want to look at reserves that can last you at least 3 months. Why do you need these reserves? Any economy will export, but also it has to import. And there are goods we must buy from abroad, including petroleum products, medicines, and others. So if there are some countries which run out of reserve, which is not good, what supports the reserves is exports, and we need to export more. Begging does not help these countries. The other aspect, as you said, Priscilla, are the exports. The country must export. I look at Uganda now. You look at the previous financial years, and now you come from 6, 7, but now you go to even 14 when you add informal and formal exports. That would be good, and I think that is what now protects us with the foreign reserves at Bank of Uganda. But we should export more, and if we are going to expand the economy, we have to export more. Countries that have exported have grown the economy. Okay. A country has to export to get out of poverty, because there are about 3 or 4 ways how you get foreign exchange. One, and the best way, is exports. The second one is tourism receipts, which are also looked at as service exports. The third one is foreign direct investments. I should have said maybe 5. And the other one is diaspora remittances. The diaspora, the people who live in different countries, our brothers and sisters doing different jobs, are contributing to this nation positively. Actually, they are contributing same or similar amounts tourism and diaspora remittances. Actually, diaspora recently slightly exceeded tourism. The last one, and I don't recommend it, is aid, grants. We need them, but they are not the right way to develop. We need them, but they will enslave you. We need them, but they come with what we call conditionality, strings attached. Okay. Yeah, but those are the big things. Then security in the economy, then democracy. People say human rights. Now the things of the Muntu they don't see. They might not even be understanding what I have been saying in the last sector. They look at, do I have money in the pocket? They look at directly what has been the cost of salt, what has been the cost of sugar, what is the cost of electricity, yaka, what is the cost of water, what is the cost of buying
And I'm going to ask you to hold your school of thought right there, because the costs you're talking about are the costs that affect the people that Alan here interacts with on a regular basis and a daily basis. And on top of that, taxation also. Then increases on the burden of cost of living for them. Alan, from your lenses, as we sit here, expecting, some positives, especially in line with what contributes directly and indirectly to the young people, what is the state of the nation through your lenses?
I think for young people, or basically anyway, an average Ugandan right now is a young person, and I think we'd look at it in terms of opportunities when it comes to the state of the nation. As a young person, where you are you having access to certain opportunities? And Dr. here has talked about the numerous growth that we've seen, the numbers have been given in certain sectors, where we've seen exports in, the mining industry, gold, we've seen exports in coffee, that's agricultural sector maybe increase and all that. And of course then the question becomes, who has then benefited from that sort of growth? Because if you're having a growth of about 6.3 every year, so it means that every year the economy is expanding about 6.3, but the figures that we keep getting, we keep getting figures around gold, we keep getting figures around coffee export, we keep getting figures around remittances and all that. Of course, then the question would then be, who within the gold sector, for example, is benefiting, is getting that, 5.8 billion or 6.2 billion annually. So
the trickle down.
Exactly. So in that value chain of gold, let me say, who is actually getting that money, or which job is being done so that that money or that gold is exported so that we get back that money. When it comes to the same thing with coffee, if you're saying that we are exporting $2.2 billion US worth of coffee, that's a very good figure, that's a very good foreign exchange income. But the then question is that in the value chain, where is that money going and to whom is it going to? So I think then the question would be, as a young person within that value chain, where do you station yourself, or where is the opportunity for you to actually benefit from that sort of growth? And I think that is where the question is, and that's where the big the state of our nation is. That, for example, we've had quite a lot of growth, for example, in when we're telling young people, go grow coffee, for example. And then we say that at the end of the year, we've exported $2 billion worth of coffee, USD billion worth of coffee. Then the question is, did the person that grew the coffee benefit from this $2 billion? To what extent? Is
it the person who grew the coffee that contributed to the export, or there's some other elements in the chain?
Of course, when at a macro level we aggregate it and we say all that came to Uganda, so Uganda benefited. But of course, then I think at the lower level, then we say who in that value chain then benefited. So
let me bring in Dr. Eli on your point right there. Dr. Eli, if coffee exports are growing, gold is growing, the figures are looking juicy for us on the charts. GDP is growing, inflation has been maintained at a low element. Why are Ugandans having the sentiments that Alan is sharing with us this morning? Why are they not feeling the growth in their livelihoods, in their pockets?
Let me start with the later one, Priscilla. I have told you my worries before about politics and soccer, that I feel they are very emotional. So whenever you are looking, and I told you a budget is both a political and an economic tool. The part of political is emotional, but the part of economics is factual. And because of that, sometimes, and because of how difficult it is to analyze, sometimes people don't see the economy growing. Because again, as you say, sometimes they don't see that direct money in their pockets. So this is how the economy grows, and I look at 4 parts. One, the producers of goods and services. Let me mention that, for example, agri-industry, agriculture, like coffee. Coffee directly puts money in those who grow coffee. Maize, it puts money in those who grow maize. But when you come to say some of the mining gives money to the economy to be able to support other sectors, roads, railways, meter gauge railways, standard gauge rail, water transport, because gold will not put money, for example, directly in the hands of most Muntu the common person. But coffee will. And that's why when we begin, when we come to discuss how we develop economy, we need wholesome and agribusiness, agri-industry, the whole lot of agriculture and agriculture value chain is so important to distribute income distribution for equity and equitability, because then these people, common people in the village don't know that when they grow their maize or beans and coffee, they don't know that it is even exported and will get foreign exchange. What they know is that they get money, incomes for their pockets. They get money to take they get school fees, tuition for their children. When they are sick, take them to the hospital. So I always understand it from my background. When I hear people say, there is no money in the economy, there is over 66 billion US dollars in the economy. But by the nature of its distribution, and it can never be distributed the way we want it as Muntu Wawansi. So therefore, my thrust is that we need to encourage a lot of production and productivity in agri-industry, in water resources and fisheries, if you say dairy and dairy products, coffee, cocoa, fruits and vegetables, maize and beans. By the way, we get a lot of money from maize and beans. And the other sad reality is that we are importing a lot of rice, which we can produce here,
yes,
both upland and lowland rice. Because I tell you that we spend more than 2.7 trillion Uganda shillings to import rice. Part of it from the neighbors, good for regional integrations, and since we want a political federation of confederation, but we need it to be self-sufficient.
Okay, so the element you've mentioned of regional integration is where the rice element comes in. That let Tanzania grow the rice, and then we get it from them. Because now, if we grow our own rice, then where will their rice go? There's also that element. But I want you to hold that school of thought. Okay. Alan, you were finishing your
yes.
submission.
I think the doctor is right, but I think we would look at that sort of chain of production, because he's saying, and he's right, that we have to produce more in some of these sectors. And I think that also, then for a change in someone's life, you just need maybe better quality jobs within those production value chains. You need, and I'll give an example. For example, even with inflation as stable, about at around 3.2%, you can still have stable inflation and not have affordable rice, affordable beans, because as the economy is growing, which is now not, as we are seeing, that is not in the pockets of the ordinary person, the income or the wages or the things that people work for on a day-to-day is also not growing at that same rate. So let me say, how many of us, for example, had an increase in their income of 6% last year?
None.
But the economy grew that big. There was money that, more production that happened. By the looks of it, the prices, besides the wars that came in and a few things changed a bit quickly, the inflation was stable. So it means that there was not a quite big rise in terms of prices so that people can be able to afford. But again, our incomes didn't drastically change. There was not that sort of level that would say that
if anything, against the cost of living.
Yes. So they could both coexist. That you could have a stable macro sort of economic situation or environment, and still have people not be able to afford schools fees, be able to not afford medication, because their incomes or their wages or their ways that they are getting money is not increasing at the same level that we are seeing some of this growth. And that's why there's a question about that growth, that, me, if I checked my pockets, it didn't grow to that. But I think the other challenge also could also be because we also have another challenge of our, I would not call it fertility rate, but our population growth. That every year, even when you have some sort of this sort of progress in terms of you adding in more jobs through value addition, more people are going into production in agriculture sector and all that, you're still adding on more people every year. So where you have a rate of about 33% of population growth every year, vis-a-vis the growth of 6.3, you're left with just a small...
I wonder what Alan's recommendation would be to deal
no,
with that
I'm
small problem.
no, I'm saying that
Yeah.
even as you're trying to solve an employment problem of, let me say, 12 million young people, you're adding another 1.2 million people the following year. So meaning that the jobs, the opportunities may not grow at the same rate as we are adding people.
But nevertheless, the planning elements through the planning authorities and who wield the power of planning for the country should put that in consideration, that every year there's an additional 1.2 million new Ugandans they have to put into consideration for planning. And we also planned to have a politician on this table because Dr. Eli did make mention of the fact that our budget has a two-face. It's a two-coined budget. There's the face of the politics and there's the face of the economics. A politician joins this table.
Well, very good morning, viewers. I'm Yunus Chen now coming live from Lira City. This morning, we are looking at the President, Yoweri Museveni, who is delivering the annual State of the Nation address and marking the new opening of the new session of Parliament. And the President is also expected to outline the government's economic progress and also including upcoming legislative and strategic priorities. And this morning, I'm privileged to have been joined in by the two gentlemen. The one standing next to me is the chairperson, Local Council 5, Oyam District, Honorable Nelson Sadea. And to the extreme left is Council Patrick Okwi, who is the Speaker of Lira City Council. He's also the spokesperson for Wanyasi Melango. That is the Paramount Chief of Ulango. Patrick and Nelson, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We are looking at the address, key expectations from the address from the President, including economic priorities, example PDM, and funding some core sectors, ministries, and also talking about the corruption. I'm starting with you, Patrick. What would be your take on this?
Thank you so much, Julius, and all the viewers. Good morning. The President is set to discharge his constitutional mandate this afternoon of delivering the State of the Nation. Now, we have different expectations across the country because this is an annual event, marking the first session of the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. Now, in delivering the State of the Nation address, personally, as a young person, I expect him, to tell the people, to tell the country how the government intends to uplift the status of the youth. We have several youth programs like Youth Livelihood Program and Go Project, but there are lots of challenges, that comes with it. First of all, the youth are not aware that we have such projects. Then the bureaucracy within, to access this program, all this money, is problematic in the country. I am happy that the President has introduced the PDM project. The PDM, I would say the PDM is one of the projects, is a brainchild of the President. But that PDM has at least tried to uplift the status, of the youth. Because there's a percentage that the youth are receiving, which I want to believe that is uplifting their status. But that notwithstanding, we still call upon government, especially in today's speech. We expect the President probably to talk about, increasing PDM probably from 1 million shillings to 2 million or 3 million, because 1 million shillings in the current economic state is something that is so meager. It cannot do a lot. But if the President, in his speech, could talk about, increasing that amount of money to 2 or 3 million, or even 5 million shillings. Recently, the people of northern Uganda, actually Lango sub-region and some parts of Tesa sub-region, are receiving 5 million shillings in their funds as we speak today on cattle restocking. I believe that amount of money could also be, put on the PDM so that the youth and the other citizens can be able to receive that money. Now, second is health. Currently, we are entangled in Ebola as a crisis. I'm happy that previously we have fought Ebola, we have fought COVID-19, and we expect the government at least to talk about how the country intends to mitigate such diseases like Ebola. Of course, I know we have been performing very well in the line of HIV. At least there's great improvement on that in that sector. Recently, the government introduced injectable vaccines to protect the citizens against HIV. How I wish that these vaccines are not only applied or used on the high risk persons like medical personnel, but also to even the citizens, especially the youth who are sometimes reckless in behavior. So for me, those are parts of my expectations. Of course, I cannot leave this studio or this ground without talking about agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of this country. I'm happy that the government has always tried, to improve on how to deal with agriculture. But my expectation this time is that the government should be able to, preach value addition, because much of the agriculture is practiced by those in subsistence farming. But I would be happy if the government, if the president talks about how to improve on agriculture, how by telling the farmers to move away from subsistence farming to the farming that improves on the economy. For example, here in northern Uganda, we don't plant coffee a lot, but we are told that there's a lot of money in coffee. Now we expect that the government or the president is going to tell us methods or mechanisms of introducing coffee and cocoa to the people of northern Uganda.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Mr. Nelson Zadea, you're the chairperson of Oyam district with a population of about 400,000 people. And Oyam district leads in Lango in teenage pregnancy, which means the standard of education in that area is low. What would be your take on that?
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Nelson Adeakar, the district chairman of Oyam district local government. Allow me first of all to congratulate His Excellency the President together with members of Parliament and the recently appointed ministers, and also my colleagues in the lower local governments and local governments. Congratulations upon your elections. We are now set off to take on the President's manifesto, and the theme is Kisanja no sleep, and I'm assuring the country that as a district we are not going to sleep. I want first of all His Excellency, my expectation on his statement, first of all is on seeing how to fight corruption. If the president can come out with a stern punishment and actions that can really limit corruption in the country. First of all, for those who are already on suspicion and may be apprehended, let them be totally disciplined, and we see the line from them. I'm also a leader. I want to also pledge that I want to work within the expectation of His Excellency. Secondly, I want to echo my voice. I want His Excellency to talk about maintenance of roads. Like for us in the districts, we use these seasonal roads. So when the rain is there, we have a lot of problems. Oyam has over 57 kilometers of roads. But you find another district maybe will be having only 100 or 200 kilometers of road. But we are given the same amount of money, 1 billion for a financial year. You expect the other one, you will definitely get that the other one with fewer kilometers of road, maintaining his roads better than me with so many kilometers of road. And I beg His Excellency to now change the policy that every maintenance of road depends on the kilometers, the number of kilometers of roads that every district has. You cannot make me with 500, over 500, to be the same with somebody with only 200. So Your Excellency, I want you to address this and make sure that we get equitable sort of those resources, not giving money the same at par. And also, I want to urge him to continue with the cattle restocking.
Thank you so much, the two gentlemen. I now take you back to the studio to Mbede Stephen, Chen, Reporting for NTV here in Lira City. Good morning.
All the way from at Lira, and here in Mutungo, this is Kampala, saying good morning to you, whoever is watching Morning at NTV. Today, of course, the word on everyone's mouth is the state of the nation, what to expect, and you also have your expectations. Let me have the view from one of the top guys in East Africa, but also those players in the sector of tourism, because I know tourism is one of the top flex earners for this country. That is the CEO of Great Lakes Safaris, Amos Wekesa. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm just not sure that I'm one of the big boys. I am struggling to just make a living in Uganda alone.
Amos, today this president will be expected to meet the diplomats and members of parliament, and of course religious leaders and everyone. Of course, everyone will be watching him on TV. And the state of the nation is happening today. From the tourism sector, you were a big player in the tourism sector. I know this comes at a time when we're battling with Ebola, and this communication and miscommunication that is you guys in the tourism sector are having a bone to pick with the ministry and the government. What's the issue?
No, I think it's good that the president is going to give a State of the Nation address. Of course, what I've always discovered with this State of the Nation address is the disconnect between the economy and politics. Even during swearing in, you find diplomats, you find politicians, but the people who actually drive the economy are not in the mix. In fact, the people driving the economy should be sitting on the front line when the president is actually giving these speeches and talks, and it registers in his mind that actually they're important. Even it registers in the mind of the business community that they're actually very important, because taxes come from the businesses. You see, an economy is a formation of, is a collection of businesses. That's why an economy is formed. And when the politics controls the economy, that economy fails. When the economy controls the politics, that economy thrives.
American style?
100%. It's any developed country. That's how it is. And of course, government came up with the idea of ATMs, which is a fantastic and great idea. But the disconnect I'm talking about is what actually lets us behind. Because you see...
Where's the gap?
The gap is that I think it's the understanding. I think politics is what covers 90% of our thinking as a people. And you can see from the functions. I'm just giving you a simple example. That during the swearing in, it was the diplomats, it was the politicians, it was the army, but the people that actually drive the economy, the Chikubo guys, where they get the taxes, the people who go out there, market the country, are not in the middle of it. You see that's the first way of disconnect. So I think it is important that business people feel that they are appreciated, that they are understood, that they can be engaged, because we can have all these dreams of ATMs, but if the business environment does not succeed, like for example,
your government's position is, in relation to what you're saying, is that we are investing heavily in infrastructure, we are investing heavily in security, because you cannot operate, a business person cannot operate where this environment is not secure. The business environment cannot operate when the roads are not worked on. So that's why they're investing more in such infrastructure.
Well, government has been investing in infrastructure for a very, very long time. In many ways, tried their level best. So they should have asked themselves, why is it that our annual budget now, this year 2026, 2027, is 84 trillion, and yet our collection from the tax, by the tax collectors is between 31 to 32 trillion. You know what that actually means? It means that we have to borrow close to 54 trillion in order to meet the gap. We're already very indebted as a country. We're over 116 trillion shillings in debt. And we should also be asking ourselves, why is it that one bank in Kenya, that's something I've been telling, and I want to emphasize this over and over for people to really understand, why would a bank like Kenya make 2.4 trillion shillings in worth of Ugandan money in profit, more than all our 23 banks combined in profit? Why? Because there's a difference. Leaders probably in Kenya understand the value of the private sector and push the agenda of the private sector. Even the leaders themselves have vested interest in private sector thinking and investment. You know what I'm talking about? So and there's also the disconnect, not even just government people, it's also us as private sector. Have you seen Ugandans? Like 99% of Ugandans will put money in opening a restaurant, will have no single money towards marketing.
I get it, but when you talk about even the budgeting and also the allocations, I also want to draw it closer to the sector that you play, the tourism sector.
Yeah.
I know that for this particular financial year, government, that I'm talking about 2026, 2027, government is allocating 571.5 billion out of the 84 you're talking about. Is this fair enough for this sector? Because it being coming after coffee, gold, tourism close there, is it fair enough, and what should be done if, yes, we are to realize the best out of tourism?
I think that it is an improvement. There was a time when the whole tourism, including looking after the 10 national parks and 12 game reserve, was 169 billion. And a lot of it was money actually collected by Uganda Wildlife Authority, but integrated into the budgeting. So going from 169 billion to 571 is actually a very good improvement by government. But there is no sector in Uganda that is as a low-hanging fruit as tourism. Because the moment the tourist just arrives the country, the economy just starts working. You know, you see what I'm talking about? And it needs...
From the airport?
From the airport, you know, if 3 million tourists arrived at the airport, and each of them pays $50 for a visa, that's $150 million. Do you know that? Yeah, and then they pay on every ticket, we have another $50 of every foreigner coming into the country. That's another $150 million. Just at the airport, we're not talking about anything. He has not gone to a hotel, which hotel becomes a center for businesses. You know, a hotel is a trapping place for businesses. The tomato grower, the onion grower, the bedsheet supplier, the water supplier, the electricity, you know what I'm talking about. When your hotels are working in the city, the economy is actually working. That's what it simply tells you, you know.
That multiplier effect you're talking about,
yes.
I want to also draw it closer to what you're talking about, the tourists coming in. I know you are the guy behind the Rwenzori Marathon. And of course, this June, August.
Within 2 months, about 2 months.
And this is coming at a time when we know that we are dealing with Ebola outbreak. The minister is saying health first. Business community says the way you're communicating is killing the business.
Yeah,
that should come first.
There's a very big disconnect there as well, because you see, I'm sure Ugandans who have understood that management of information can actually build or destroy you as a country, you know, or as a person. Wealth has never been against life. Actually, the more wealth a country is, the better health the country has. When we leave Uganda and go for treatment in India or the US, it's because there's wealth to create the environment that makes sure health exists. So when you communicate about health, you should first in your mind be thinking about where wealth is coming from. Even means of health is not asking, you're killing business, but at the same time you're asking for billions. Where are the billions going to come from? If the country can't make the billions, then you're going to borrow the billions, or you are going to be a beggar somewhere in order for...
Of course, they're already looking for partners to partner with the ministry and government.
It's not partners, it's begging. When we say partners, we're begging. But we're saying don't kill the business, let a country prosper. Let a country have wealth such that the environment has money in order to fight health. Against negative things against health. You
know, the ministry, at least going by the words of the PS of Minister of Health, Dr. Diana Atwini, says transparency first, because once they keep these numbers down or cover the numbers behind the paper, you know what? It may the spread of these diseases may keep on rising. And they say that at least the president has been on the front line as number one, trying to make sure that even from the days of AIDS, COVID-19, Uganda had less numbers of COVID-19, especially fatalities, because of its policy. It comes out fast and effectively.
So you're interviewing me. So you think this whole economy should be closed because one Congolese died in Uganda? Let me tell you what's happening right now. It has very little to do, it has a bit to do with tourism. But today, you carry a Ugandan passport. Today, I've just flown I've done about 12 flights in the last 3 weeks. And I put on Ugandan shirt everywhere I go because I'm very proudly Ugandan. Everywhere you go, people think you're going to die the next minute. Who is going to want to deal with a country or people from countries that talking about Uganda, Congo is neighbored by 9 countries. Why is it that Uganda is the only country that is owning this disease? Why isn't Tanzania owning it? Why, if it makes sense, why isn't our neighbors Rwanda owning it? Why are we the ones who are owning it?
Government strategy.
To own it.
To communicate, and they are saying transparently.
Okay, I think what is so clear right now is that it is important to fight the disease. It is important to tell the world we had a bit of a challenge, but it's important to tell the world Uganda right now is not closed for business. Uganda is open for business. Let's not kill the environment.
Well, as we go back to studio, my final question to you is, you're talking about Uganda yes, it's open to business and people are still coming in and going out. But we know that as we speak now, many countries talk about Thailand, talk about Canada, where you've been. Even they told you that you may not come back because of this disease.
Yes.
And you know, restrictions here in the US and everywhere, in Britain. This is happening. And how is the actual effect on your side as the business operators, the travel restrictions?
The advantage is that yesterday, over 246 hotel owners actually engaged Ministry of Health and said you're killing the environment. Over 246 hotels. There are centers for employment, there are centers for food production, there are centers for everything. And right now, as we speak, over 70% of the tourists that are supposed to come to Uganda have cancelled. Okay. Flights are stopping to come to Uganda. People are stopping to give visas to Ugandans. Ugandans are stuck in Canada, they cannot come here. Ugandans are supposed to go to Canada, can't go there, so we can't do business. Why? Because we are miscommunication. We're handling information in the way that it's actually hurting us instead.
Well, the sector, the business economy, the business operators are talking, and I hope government will listen to them and they maybe come back on table and see how to solve this amicably, because we want to run the economy, we want to save the lives, but we also want to work with the rest of the world. Stephen Mbide, thank you so much. Amos Wekesa is the CEO of Great Lakes Safaris. He's of course running a chain of businesses here in Uganda. See you. Have the microphone from me, Priscilla Regina.
Thank you so much, Stephen Bide. Wekesa has made a very critical moment, and he says that for all these national elements and moments that should be defining us as a country, the stakeholders that actually do the meaningful contribution are not the stakeholders that are actually invited to the table to be addressed. The politicians are the ones that are invited to the table. So we also decided to invite a politician to our table.
The former
politician.
Once
a politician, always a politician.
Just not in the office right now, but he's still a politician.
All right, so Honorable Dr. Atim Per Agnes, thank you so much for joining us on this table, and you find us at a critical moment, and it's a debate that we've been having backstage, really the contrast between what is being magnified as the growth of the economy and the contributing factors to the economic growth that don't tally with what people are seeing as realities on ground. Not tallying with, there's a story in the papers this morning, it has taken 19 years for an elderly man, 86 years of age now, to gain justice for her land that was left to her by her husband. 19 years. And that really speaks into the actual state of the nation on ground. You've heard what Amos Wekesa has had. You joined us when your own leaders from your own region were also speaking of expectations. And you having sat in the August House and being part and parcel of the drivers of thought of decision behind what the country has been receiving for the last 365 days. What saith you in defense?
In defense, oh my God.
In defense of politicians.
So thank you very much. And I want to appreciate my colleagues and apologies for making it a little late because of other challenges. But I think I need to start with from what the nation, State of the Nation address actually means and what our people back there should appreciate, that every year the president comes out and makes accountability. Make statements to account for the last financial year and also present to the country what the plans are in place as well as the financing of that planned, that is in place for the country. And so we appreciate that over the years we've seen that being done religiously, and it is constitutional that he has to do that. And so I really want to welcome the citizens to pay very keen attention to what the president is going to tell the country in terms of the last financial year, but also the coming financial year. Now, in terms of accountability, I think you're asking me the question of defense and accountability on my part as the politician, the former politician, is that this country is structured in such a way that every institution has a role to play. And Parliament is one of that institution that plays a critical role, one, in appropriating the budgets, two, in legislating the laws and the policies and all that can drive the country. But also three, we also have that element of bringing the voices of our people and participation, making sure that the issues in Amolatar are actually presented to the country for consideration, and the other aspect of monitoring. Now, in terms of this, linking it to the State of the Nation address, yes, the budgets that is going to be read today was passed by my parliament, the 11th parliament. And one of the critical things that we've been considering for the last 5 years is how do we link the ordinary citizen of Amolatar, of Kisoro, of Karamoja into this great economy that is growing. Priscilla, we need to appreciate, yes, that the economy is growing, but what does that mean? I mean, that is about the production.
How do you explain it to your people of Amolatar?
Exactly. So the economic, the growth of the 6% literally means that the economic activity of the country is producing that particular activity that raises to 6%. For the next year is going to be 7%, showing that actually in terms of export, in terms of industries, in terms of somehow that it's bringing us to the 6%. And the next, I'm sure that my colleague economists could have really defined some of these things that I don't want to get into. But basically it measures production, measures the output, and it measures the economic activity. Now, in reality, what does that mean? Does my person in Amolatar actually feels that the economy is growing? For them, what they want to see is how much money do I have in my pocket, right? Am I able to pay school fees for my children? Do I have the food to actually put on the table? And if I'm producing my crops, am I getting the price that is supposed to do that? So the growth and the plans for government has to be in tandem, considering the macroeconomics kind of indicators, at the same time looking at the well-being of our people. And that is why I've always said I'm an economist, but a rural one. I'm not a fan of the macro figures and all that. And in most cases, countries measure the GDP, right? But the professor here will tell you that there are actually other indicators, other indexes. For example, we have the Human Development Index. We have the Multidimensional Poverty Index, for example, which focuses mainly on the levels of incomes and poverty. And I must appreciate that I think you both did some research recently at measuring the multidimensional poverty. And for them, they said that at the national level, our poverty rate may be 16%. But when you go deep down in the villages and really measure this poverty of 6%, where is it? Now, when they did the MPI, what we call the MPI, they actually found that it is 27%, isn't it? So you can see that shows you that, yes, at the national level, we may have a different picture, but in the community, it is something else. And so for me, that is how my people need to appreciate that the growth has to be brought down to the level of, at the household level, the income level. Now, what is it that we need to appreciate as a rural people, as the economy grows? Our question And I want to say to ourselves, because we always say our question to government, because we are all government anyway, and we play roles at different levels, we need to start asking ourselves, how do I sell my coffee at a better price? How do I make sure that the figures at the moment of the very high coffee exports, which has contributed to the growth of the economy, how is that farmer in Masaka producing the coffee, part of that value chain? Is this coffee having, this farmer having an irrigation to be able to produce more? Is he actually producing at the same rate of Brazil and those countries that in 1 acre, I think they double the quantity that we produce? How can this farmer be helped to make sure that he produces the productivity of the farm is at scale, and is producing the quality, and is getting the real money? Because, for example, I think the president will even give that example today. He's so passionate about it. The participation of the farmer in the value chain. The farmer produces raw material, and he sells it at, I think, $2. And then this same coffee is going to be processed by a middleman in here, not even processed, doing something little, will sell it at $8. This same coffee will go out and be sold at $40. So for me, the question should be now, the State of the Nation address should be able to help us understand.
Let me put you on the spot, Honorable. For that very element that you're talking about, what has been the contribution of the August House to ensure that that's a reality, getting into this new budget?
Now, the government has come up with the 4 drivers of the economy. That is what we call the ATMS: agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and social services. It's science and technology. Now, as Parliament, our interest has been that the budget should be able to address this. Unfortunately, is that our budget is more heavily funding the enablers of the economy, not directly some of these. For example, agriculture got about, I think, close to about 3%. Tourism, I think, is about like 2 or something %. But much of the investment is actually on the enablers of the economy. For example, there is huge investment in the road and infrastructure area. We are putting substantial money in the electricity generation, so that when the industries are coming, we actually have those monies. We have the electricity to support it. I know that there is also some investment now starting on the manufacturing sector, the mineral development, and the president has come out very strongly to say we are not going to export raw minerals. A reason why we took so long in our oil sector development, because the president wanted this oil to be refined. So as Parliament, essential being around enabling environment for economic drive, but also some investment in these 4 sectors that to be translated then into the economy.
Right. Speaking of enabling,
the other thing is that as Ugandans, we're always very pessimistic, but I'm one of those who are very optimistic that we are confident that this financial year we shall get our first oil. And most of the investment that has been in the oil sector, hopefully, will then provide some fiscal space, because over the years there's been a lot of infrastructure development in the oil producing area. So we are hoping that starting this financial year, when we start getting the oil revenue, government should then be able to start financing some of the projects that have been lagging behind, for example, roads, for example, the rail and all that. So I think the we should expect the State of the Nation addressed with some optimism that we're going to have the oil. Our fiscal space will improve a little bit, and we hope that also more investment will be done in the area of agriculture.
The people of Soroti, when you say we're going to have some oil, in their imagination, I would imagine that they're thinking there's going to be a well where they'll also get a bit of that oil and carry it and sell it on the road to be able to have money in their pocket. And again, really. The translations for the population matter. And earlier on, I think we alluded to the fact that there's the quality element and the quantity element of population that we should speak into in order to have the internal growth as expansive massive as we are seeing the external growth, to which we're being joined by our reporter Kenneth Odele, who I believe is in Soroti, having an interaction with different community leaders on what their assessment is of the last 365 days and what impact it has had, either positive or negative, and what expectations they do have from the President's address this afternoon. Kenneth, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Priscilla, and good morning all our viewers. My name is Odele Kenneth here in Soroti City. Today we're expecting the presidential address, and with me is a panel of opinion leaders, the business community, and the politicians going to take us through on the expectations of what they expect the president to say and perhaps address in this financial year. Right on my side here is the Reverend Besweri Otekat from Church of Uganda Diocese Soroti, and the Executive Director Benson Ekwe, Executive Director of Public Affairs Center, Uganda, here in Soroti, and the newly elected LC5, Bob Owing, who is the newly elected LC5 of Soroti district. So we start with the LC5. Good morning, sir, and what are the biggest challenge the people in your community are facing that you expect the president to address today and in this coming financial year?
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Bob Wing, District Chairperson. Because of time, I'm going to give highlights of the key areas. First and foremost, as a District Chairperson of the district is the mother district also, but also as an LC5, I cannot speak about my district or for my district without touching critical one or two areas for the sub-region test. One of the issues I would want to hear from the president, what I expect here from the president, is addressing the issues of health. Here in Teso sub-region, our regional referral hospital is now the smallest in the country. It has the services below average. It has the old structures. So therefore, there is no way we are going to sit, yet we are from a campaign where the president promised us a new established regional referral hospital with a teaching hospital right up where the district offered land to the city for that specific purpose. Therefore, if we are to improve health in Teso sub-region, our regional referral hospital is now smaller, is now squeezed. When you go to Ward 3, people are sleeping up and down, patients are lying outside the ward. When you go to the children's ward, the mothers are carrying their own babies on blood transfusion. Therefore, one of the key things I would love to hear from the president is if an allocation shall be made for establishment of a new regional referral hospital, the teaching hospital for the people of Teso.
Yeah.
The other second thing that is a regional matter is the issue of road. His Excellency the President, for a record, I'm also the Secretary of Publicity and Mobilization of the NRM, a member of the District Executive Committee of the NRM, as well as the District Chairperson. The road network, they promised us the road from Kumi, Mora, Agu, Ochapa, Serere to Kagwara. And we also told an addendum has been made to bring back that road now from Serere to Soroti City via Oderai. We are also now requesting, as the chairman LP5 of Soroti, they connect that stretch also from Soroti City to Asture to Ochapa, so that place is formed.
Yes, Chairman, we have little time, and here we go to what we are told Uganda is now among the top growing economies in the country, and I mean in the world. So, what would you like to hear in regard to the business and job creation here for society in the Teso region?
So, first of all, I must say that some progress, minimal progress, has been made last 40 years, very minimal. And that's why we are still, after 40 years, we are still graded as SIPC. SIPC is a highly indebted worker. Uganda is still riddled with the debt. Our economy is struggling. We are largely driven by state consumption. And that's why, as a country, we are still running programs like PDM. PDM is indicated that we are not doing it. And interesting, even a district like Kenya, that is about 9 billion. both reports didn't get second one. So I think the economy is not good. I would therefore expect the president to address political issues of strategic nature that would pull out this economy from the dwindle of acute debt and many others. So one, the issue of debt reduction, if I use last year as example, you find that last year alone in the financial year, around 34 billion for debt payment. Yeah. But we had to borrow 37 billion. Yeah. So that already shows you we are in trouble. And the Bank of Uganda report shows debt is one of the things that submarket. So I think that is the end. Then the second issue is the issue
we are running out of time, and perhaps I would give Reverend also time to give us what would be the urgent priorities. You know, Reverend, you are in charge of everybody here and the life in Uganda, be it a politician or what. So what are those urgent priorities till you are the president to address concerning your future?
Well, thank you very much, Yuan. Uganda as a country, we have so many needs. One of the things, the issue of your expansion. First of all, I want to appreciate the president. Right now, if you look at the appointment, there are more young people. That is the credit. But we need more. My problem is what is the effective? Because like good people, but how is it going to impact the number of people down there? So me, I want to appeal to the president to make those appointments and prioritize his services in the country. One of the things as a church, we pray daily that he addresses not on lip service, but actual corruption. Because when you talk of corruption, it is like a virus in our country. And unless the president comes up, starting from his own state house, where he is, there is a lot of corruption. And then you come to ministry, come to local government, come to the villages, you know, people, for us, they have enough evidence, but we don't know where to take. One, when you come up with evidence, you become a victim, a victim of those who are corrupt. So we want him to come up openly, not on selective justice, but to clean the country as far as corruption is concerned. Because to be honest, there is corruption everywhere. Medical services, local government, even in the churches, there's corruption everywhere. But we need a clean system. And we want the president not just talk about it, but to act. And not sparingly, but everybody that is found a victim must be responsible.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend, and thank you very much, our viewers. Had some little time, I shall continue giving the updates on what is happening and the expectations of people from TESO, which expectations are almost similar to most of the regions in this country. My name is Odele Kenneth here in Soroti City. I hand you back, viewers, to Priscilla at the studio.
All right, from Soroti and its leaders and their various expectations that they have put on the table, will they be reflected or translated into the State of the Nation address later on this afternoon? We await to see. But we have a 365 days that we can make assessment of if the things that were committed in the last State of the Nation address have been achieved by any chance. But I know that, Alan, you needed to react and respond to what Dr. Pear had submitted earlier on.
Yes, me it was basically to just say that even when we say or we see that monies are being put in what we call enablers of the economy. When you talk about electricity, for example, we know for a fact that within the tax bills there was an amendment to forgive or waive or pay for Bujagali, the concession taxes of up to about 155 billion. So that is money foregone, money that we may need back in the economy. Yet, power or electricity has not become cheaper because of that concession or because of that incentive. So when you look at, for example, I was given an example a few years ago when we looked at the Babagemaire Commission into UNRWA, we saw how much money was lost in terms of contracts that were, delayed, very many things. That report is public, people can look at it. But my point was that even when we see on paper that money is being put or allocated in sectors that are enabling the economy, most of the time we lose that money to leakages in terms of corruption, in terms of where people get a benefit here and there, and we don't get to see that sort of benefit coming to benefit the entire economy. So it is something that I think we need to look at, especially when we are saying that we are looking at if things have changed or if we are seeing some sort of movement in terms of our seeing our lives if they are better than they were a year ago. So that was the thing I wanted to point out, that there's a lot of leakage. If in a scenario where we are not even collecting enough. I'll give an example. Our tax to GDP ratio is about 14.3%. We would say minimum should be at least about 15%. The regional average is about 18%. What that says is that even when we are seeing that the economy is growing 6.7% or 7% as projected, the tax to GDP ratio is not growing at that rate. So it means that you're having more production, yet in terms of revenue, what we would then be investing in education, investing in health, paying our interns and all that, is not corresponding to what we are seeing, the growth that we are seeing within the economy. So on top of that, then you have the leakages that you're seeing. That there are quite various reports on how much money we are losing, whether it's illicit financial flows, whether it's corruption, whether it's, and huge amounts. Siatin, I think, has made a report around 2% of the economy and all that. Every year, annually, you lose that. So it is not enough that we even mobilize that little. I think Prof will tell you that even what we've mobilized, almost all of it we pay into interest payments and all that.
On that note, Dr. Eli, what are the key ministries that you believe need to work together if we're going to have an improved economy that trickles down to the Ugandan?
These are some of the key ministries I'm going to recommend to the President. Please remember, I'm not a politician and I have no role in allocating ministries. I have also no chance currently because the cabinet list already came out, so you saw. So I told Dr. Pierre that she could still, Agnes could still have a chance. One of the positions in the cabinet for me.
Chance would have come earlier if it was there.
So, because since there are about four things that I have to say. The economy is growing, but also the population is also growing. Every year, net of 1 million people is what we have. GDP is growing above 6%, but we pray next year can be 7%, but we need to push it to 2 digits. Maybe to 10, between 10 to 16 is important for very speedy growth, but the engine will have to be very strong. If that is going to happen, then like I always said, I believe in PDM. If PDM is done very well, it will commercialize the economy, the raw economy. It will monetize the raw economy, because why people complain about not seeing money in their pockets? Because they are not earning it. The market is not giving it to them, or they are not producing for the market. And leave alone these others, the gold, the oil, that will bring us GDP, and we can use it for the roads, the enablers. What will put money in the pockets of the people is Ministry of Agriculture, and it is big. Agriculture, animal fisheries, and animal industry and fisheries. So a lot of investment there, and linking down to the grassroots. Ministry of Industry, because if these industries, But I want to start with industry because some countries, they actually have a Ministry of Industry alone. Industry is so important. You link it to even the investments we should attract, where we should invest, where we should allocate it, industrial zones, industrial parks, and who produces from there. Then trade. Trade now, the only important trade for me, and which the president went throughout the nation saying, is access, entering the markets, penetration of export markets. Because whatever we produce, if we cannot get foreign exchange, and we are begging for it, is a problem.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Eli, Dr. Pear, and Mr. Alan Harris. Thank you so much for your inputs. Of course, we cannot exhaust everything at the end of the day, and there's so much that we need to have a breakdown and a better understanding of. But one thing is clear, that in order for all this to be achieved, at the end of the day, there must be also thought into the quantity of the population that we have, and how do we make it a quality population that matters in order to feed into production and the markets that are being referred to. For us, Bana Uganda, to feel that money, so that we don't worry about the money that's coming through gold and coffee exports, we can have our own chain of money moving within ourselves at different levels and layers of the economy. We take a break right now from this conversation, but we'll have continued programming towards the State of the Nation address starting at 11 a.m. So